All right.
Coming back live.
Yeah. Bukuro boys after hours. Not
Bukuro.
even sure what this is.
So it's still earlier than we usually would record, right? It's only
Well,
like 7:30.
yeah, but like just woke up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You literally just woke up like two.
Like 6:30, so like an hour
Okay,
ago.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think I was like 4:30, 3:30, 4:30.
Early bird gets the worm.
I actually slept at like 9:30 a.m. and then crashed like until about 4:30, 3:30, 4:30.
Yeah, so I went to see Richie Hawtin at Womb.
Okay, yeah. You just went by yourself, or?
Yeah, just solo for the music. But yeah, indeed, this is an event that's best attended as a group with friends.
Okay, yeah.
I think that captures more of the spirit of the event. Womb is so small. There's like no room to like move around or anything, so you're just like packed into.
Really?
Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't
at
know,
least
man.
for
I mean,
this
it's
event.
pretty. It has like upstairs, down. Like it has
Yeah,
a few
but
different.
if you're there for the main floor, right?
I don't remember it being that small. I mean, yeah, I guess if you're used to like giant festivals or
Yeah.
something, but I wouldn't say it's like by Tokyo standards. I wouldn't say it's like.
By Tokyo standards, probably fine. But
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
the only one that had like the real monster floor was like Ageha,
Yeah.
like Shinkiba Ageha, but it closed. COVID kind of killed that.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, because it wasn't amazing. You went to Ageha, right?
I went there once. Yeah, right.
I
When I
remember
like
the
first
main.
came here.
Remember the main floor?
Yeah, it was huge.
That's a huge.
I mean, it's like a
huge
airplane
monster floor.
hangar.
Yeah, it's
or
like
something.
a hangar.
Yeah.
There's an outdoor area with like pool and stuff, and like
Yeah. Like
yeah,
3 or
Ageha
4 stages.
Ageha was an amazing club. If anyone, probably a few people watching this remember. We don't really talk much about the club scene, but we were pretty heavily into it, I guess, at various levels. But yeah, Womb is like it's tight by those standards, but
Have you been to Zero?
I feel like once maybe.
It's like the new one.
Yeah, Shinjuku, right?
Yeah.
I'm kind of.
Is it good?
I remember it was a little bit. I think I was just out of my mind when I went there, so I can barely remember that much. I think I have been there once, but don't have super positive or negative memories of it.
Right.
Either way. But yeah. Okay, so you just went by yourself, and then what you just
mention it once more, please.
You're kind of well. No, this is like something I would do though.
Yeah.
Like I almost like prefer doing that myself too. In the sense that like even just going to a like normie club where there's like no good headliner. Like a lot of my best times were just going by myself and just like making things happen. Right. So it's actually kind of a boss move, right? But you didn't think it was worth it this time?
Yeah, I mean, didn't get what I was looking for out of it, I guess.
What would you say you were like looking for?
I was hoping for better music, I guess. I mean, it was
from
pretty
Hawtin.
Yeah, from Hawtin. Yeah. The set list I found was underwhelming.
Do you think he was like, I don't know, like soft pedaling it for Japan or something, or was?
I don't know what the situation is. I think he's pretty
like
affiliated.
Plastic Man.
Yeah,
Plastic.
I don't know under what alias this was supposed to be. Probably under Plastic Man, but I think he's pretty closely affiliated with this club. Like he performs here every year at like on this weekend, especially, which is kind of interesting.
Kind of makes sense. Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I might have like kind of missed the crescendo of like missed the wave, I guess, if you know what I mean. Like if you like show up at the wrong time. Yeah, you like don't really catch the transition.
Energy's not really there.
Yeah, something like
that. Kind of out of sync with the energy. Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't. Just the way timing worked out, I basically aimed to get there just for his set.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. Didn't quite do it for me. So I just nuked my energy levels and
schedule.
Circadian rhythm. It's okay though. I'll kind of rest and recovery. Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, I guess because it's an artist that like you yourself chose. I mean, I don't think there's like any artist in the world at the moment I would like maybe consciously go to see
Mm,
even my favorite, I don't know, bands and stuff. Like if it was like zero effort for me or something,
right.
but it like just for its own sake, I just can't imagine carving out time at this point to like go see them, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I mean, I certainly did when I was, younger, but
Mhm.
at the moment, I'm just live music. I'm just very uninterested in.
Right.
Not that there's not cool things that pop up. Like, remember that one thing we went to last year?
Oh yeah, well, that was like 2
City
years
Pop
ago
and
now,
stuff.
right? Oh,
No,
okay, City
it was
Pop.
a
Yeah,
year
that
ago,
was
right?
last year.
It was
Yeah,
last year about this time, right?
yeah, it was like vaporwave.
Yeah, well,
right?
yeah, it was like City Pop and Future Funk and
Saint Pepsi
uh,
adjacent.
yeah,
Or,
kind of like it was very perfectly like curated.
mm,
Uh, weirdly underattended. I feel like if it was this
mm.
year, there would be like 100 plus more
Yeah,
people
for
there.
sure. Yeah, and that was one of the things with Richie Hawtin. Apparently, a lot of people flew in from like UK.
Yeah, so
and
see,
stuff.
then that's already like I
Yeah,
mean, it's
so
already
something different.
It's something different, right? So if you can catch these things when there's not, I guess like if you can catch them when there's not too much of a buildup
Right.
and it just happens, then
Yeah.
I'll go to it.
Yeah.
But something that's like I know about like 3 months in, like I'm not gonna put that in
Yeah.
my schedule or whatever. Like it's not.
Well, it's kind of weird that this wasn't
Yeah.
sold out. Like
Mm.
I bought tickets on the day.
Yeah.
Versus like next Saturday, I'm going to see Charlotte DeWitt
Okay,
or
yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
as I previously mentioned. And that like
So you're
sold out.
So you're pretty into this then, right? Like you're actually
Just
pretty
giving it a
just
shot.
giving it okay, yeah.
I mean, like a lot of performances in this month in particular, and I was kind of
Yeah.
like, okay, well, I like their music. Like
Give
I
it a
go out
shot,
of my
yeah,
way to
yeah.
search their name on Spotify.
Yeah.
So if they're performing in the city, well,
Might
I
as well
might as
see it.
well,
Yeah.
might as well while I'm, able-bodied.
Able-bodied and give it a shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many artists I saw when I was young. Like I saw like Alice in Chains, Sonic Youth,
Right.
and like they're in again like in very small clubs and like
Right.
these are kind of like legendary acts now. And
Mm,
yeah, like I'm glad I did it when I was still that interested that I would like do that.
Yeah.
At the moment, I mean, there's very even some of the bands we were talking about in the very first podcast, like Suede and
right.
Manic Street Preachers came here, I think a year or two ago.
Oh, really?
And,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I could have gone. I was just like, yeah, like I don't need to see them cosplaying as their younger selves.
Right.
It's like, okay, like I'm sure it'd be legit. I'm sure they'd put on a very professional show, but just at this point, it's not really a priority.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was good, but yeah, not something I'd really be that invested in. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tricky. Like I'm kind of surprised that I found it underwhelming, right? Like it.
Yeah.
I really wonder what I could have done to get more out of it. But I mean, this is continuing my existing pattern of finding music events kind of like this.
It's gotta be really like some of the things that it's gotta be time and place. Like there was remember like 10 years ago when I was really going to a lot more of these, like there was they used to have this big beach festival in Makuhari.
Okay.
And
is that like Odaiba or
no, it's down more like kind of Chiba way.
Okay.
But and one of the most amazing sets was from Fatboy Slim. I had like zero, like not someone I would have rated super highly just from listening, but in that time and place, like his set just went off and it was just crazy. I was like, wow, this is like way better than I ever
and he's
would
like
have.
not someone you like listen to normally.
Not really. I mean, I was familiar with him,
yeah.
but I wasn't like super into his like records, I guess.
Right.
But just live, I mean, just crushed it, right?
Yeah,
so,
there's artists like that, right?
There's so sort of time and place and artists, I guess. I've had that experience with some other acts too, again in various genres or different, not just techno kind of stuff. Like with more like live band kind of stuff too. Like there's some things I thought were going to be, way more impressive than they ended up being. And some other stuff I had no expectations for turned out to like really, crush it.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, kind
roll of the dice, I guess.
Roll of the dice, you know.
Yeah.
He might have just been having a bad night, you know. It does happen, right?
Seemed fine, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm not super in tune with the music he's currently playing, so it could have just been mismatch of expectation, I guess.
Expectations, yeah.
Because there's a few albums I really like from him, but yeah, maybe what he's kind of playing now or what he thought he was expected to play at Womb was, look, I mean, if even the dance floor was a bit more opened up, right? Like if it wasn't just shoulder to shoulder, then
maybe a little bit more room to vibe or whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, instead you're just like, you know, shoulder to shoulder getting blasted in that kind of like surround sound bass thumping.
Drinks spilled on your shoes and stuff, right? Getting some damage.
Way too sweaty for some reason.
So it's like, man.
So it's like,
It's but
I'll go to Labyrinth again though. That was a good time. Cool. Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't rain out.
Yeah.
But
it's in August, though, right? Or?
October, in fact.
October,
yeah. And it's outside, so it's just a completely different thing.
A bit more vibe, Room to move around and kind of experience more. Yeah.
How about you? Just bullet chess all night, was it?
Just playing bullet chess, man. I think there's H.G. Wells said something like, if you want to ruin a man, introduce him to chess, right? And I think there's some truth in that. Where, I think Crowley says something similar where he was like, we know that Crowley was like a chess master.
I think you mentioned
in his early days, right? And
like actually ranked like
if I remember, but if I remember right, he was pretty. I don't know in detail, and I don't want to get this wrong because someone will probably call me out. But I think he took it fairly competitively seriously. But he did say something like looking deeper into the world of chess grandmasters. It's just like, it's kind of like a black hole, right?
Right.
And I don't know. I mean, if you look at high level players now, they seem pretty, healthy and chill and stuff. But I do think there's a sense in which it can be a bit of a black hole, or like kind of an abyss, I guess. But I mean, it's fun. It's certainly fun, but it's kind of, it's not really. I think even Bobby Fischer says something like he eventually came out quite against it.
Against chess?
Yeah. Where he said something like, I hate chess, like towards the end of his life. Because he's like, it's not creative. Which is it? I mean, it like, I feel like it involved, and I think he said something similar, like it involves creativity, but it's not, it certainly is like the AI is gonna always be better,
right?
Because it is like a
right. It's more mathematical.
The nature of the game is just crunching, probabilities, and there's a high level of memorization, and like I think that's like, it's interesting. I don't know if you follow it much recently, but like the high level players now sort of are like working in tandem with AI.
Right.
And they're like learning more from it, and also sort of, I don't know, it is quite interesting. Again, this is like one of the areas where I think like AI is legit. Like I never want to be like, oh, AI is like evil or something. And I think there are like areas of human endeavor where it can like enhance human effort. Other areas, I think it just retards it kind of. But I think like chess is, again, by its nature, it's kind of a probabilistic game where, and again, like watching high level AI games of like AI versus AI, like it's crazy, right? Because they're just doing things that you're like almost everything looks like a mistake until like 10 minutes later,
right?
Then you're like, oh, remember 10 minutes ago, right? So it's like thinking so far in advance that like, I guess like a human, like there are some humans who can do it, but it's probably, I think as a human, you'd have to be configured very precisely to be able to do that.
Just to be able to contemplate like that.
Well, and like that level of like, there's probably like, I don't know, maybe 50 people in the world that are configured that way,
right?
And would even like have a kind of chance against that level of AI. Like, I don't think it's that there aren't, but it's such a like, it's such a specific sort of, I don't know, mental configuration that for most people, I mean, for me, it's just like, if I get to like 2000 ELO, 2500, it's just like, what, I mean,
what's that mean?
Well, it's just like the ranking. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's like, for me, like I'm still playing, but I'm already like, it's just completely meaningless in a sense. Where it's just like, okay, you can grind enough to memorize this many patterns, but it's not really like.
What do you feel like you get out of it?
Nothing. No, it's a waste of time. I do think it's a waste of time. It's just kind of an addictive.
What's addictive about it?
Well, just working out more patterns and kind of advancing. But I really don't see much value in it beyond that.
It's like a fidget toy or something.
Yeah, it's just something like that. It's just kind of a time killer. But I don't think it's like a high level of endeavor or something.
Yeah.
That's why, like, the last episode when Raimi invited me, I was like, nah, like I don't play even more of this, right? Like, it's already kind of a nuisance, right? But, certainly interesting. I do think it's, as I said, like, I feel like the AI, I want to call it like a symbiosis or something, where it's sort of like the best players are learning from it. And
so how do they learn from it? Do they just play against it and basically like analyze the moves?
The thing is that, like, it's not just like the AI players, but it's like the AI that analyzes your games, right? So like if you play a game on something like chess.com,
right,
which I'm now just, I don't know, free advertising, but like it'll evaluate your game and like point out, inaccuracies and like what you could have done differently. And, it'll give you very specific feedback.
Right. Like this turn you did this.
Like you did this, but you could have done this and then this would have allowed you. So that's crazy, right? Like that's an actual teaching tool, right?
Yeah.
So, there's things like that you can learn from. Again, you can literally watch AI versus AI games, which are, again, pretty crazy. And I mean, I guess you gotta have some skin in the game to even perceive that.
Right.
Because like if you don't see how people normally play, then you're not gonna be like, oh, that was like a next level insane move. Like you gotta have like some awareness of how it's played. But it is interesting. And I think there's like, this is why, like, I feel like recent, like Kasparov, like the possibly, the best, if not one of the best ever in the world, was eventually did lose to a computer, like what, 25 years ago, right? Deep Blue, I think.
Yeah, I remember the story roughly.
So that's sort of
was that the first time an AI defeated?
I think at that level.
Okay.
I mean, it was a pretty, they build it as this was certainly built up to kind of this showdown level, right?
Right.
So yeah, and I think at that point it's just like people, like obviously people didn't stop playing chess. And like weirdly I think like the best players now are better than back then, sort of because of it. So because the
AI
computer,
upgraded,
they upgraded, but they upgraded the human level too, right?
Yeah.
So that's one example I would say it's like a good example.
Yeah.
Other fields of human endeavor, I don't know if it works that way, because again, it's not like a probabilistic numbers game like chess is.
So kind of in this vein, maybe brief detour, I've noticed that talking to ChatGPT has affected how I communicate with other people.
Okay, that's interesting. Like what ways would you
Well,
say?
so like ChatGPT's style, I guess I would say it's like very like encouraging, enthusiastic, reaffirming. Where like, you know, if you say something to it, the first thing it'll do is like restate what you said to it and like affirm it,
Yeah.
right? So I started noticing myself feeling drawn to those sorts of patterns of speech.
Okay, yeah.
Where like someone will say something to me and I'll like reaffirm it first and foremost, right? So stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which I kind of think is a positive thing.
Yeah. I would say it's a negative.
Yeah. So okay, let's go.
Well,
let's discuss.
I think again, like it's like an inanimate tool. It doesn't have intrinsic positives or negatives. But I think and I was saying this. I was talking about this in another. I was talking about this with some other people recently, and there's a few people I know that are using it, and they've just like cocooned themselves in echo chambers.
Yep.
And it's just like literally like they've been, you know, like it's not their name, but you know, if their name is like, I don't know, Craig or something, like they're just all day long, they're interacting with Craig GPT.
Right.
And it's just like, you know, their biases are affirmed constantly.
Right.
It's just like a pure echo chamber. And they're like trying to tell other people about it. They're like, oh, like, look, GPT has confirmed my, like, bro, like,
but you don't realize,
like, So I was like, well, most of the time, like, I want to see where my blind spots are, right? Like, I want to see where my gaps and errors are, right?
Yeah. It's funny we're talking about this because I was testing this just this morning.
Well, yeah, and so if you could use it to like disagree with everything you say, then you might maybe learn something, right? So,
I was talking with it and I was asking basically exactly this question. So I was like, okay, so one of the common issues with the modern social landscape basically is this algorithmic newsfeed where everyone is fed their own reality back to them. And, you know, there's no longer this, you know, evening news consensus reality baseline. Like everyone's kind of living in their own confirmation bubble. And so I was asking ChatGPT, well, like, you know, isn't as more and more people have like stronger and stronger relationships with ChatGPT, dare I say, as ChatGPT becomes the best friend of more and more people, like, aren't we, like, what kind of reality are we building there? Like, because as you pointed out, you can just like that can actually be quite isolating, right? Where now you're just wrapped up in this confirmation bubble with ChatGPT. To which it replied that it's like basically, yeah, it's an issue, but it said that ChatGPT is programmed to offer like kind of perspective shifting viewpoints or try and like expand your world a bit by suggesting, you know, areas of growth or expansion, which is kind of true. Kind of like it does kind of introduce other ideas, but the thing is it doesn't. So I was like, okay, well, ChatGPT, like, break my brain right now, right? Like, give me a totally out of left field perspective on myself, based on like everything you know about me, and it basically couldn't do that, right? It basically just continued what we've already been talking about. So there was nothing like radical or completely like earth shaking, right? It couldn't make that leap, I guess.
Well, I think like there could be value in something like having something that is almost like an avatar that's like trained on a specific body of knowledge. Like, you know, you could have like, I don't know, Ayn Rand GPT or something. That would like if you knew that it was only accessing Ayn Rand primary sources, then you could presumably interact in an interesting way with that. But if it's just like, if you don't know where the info is coming from, if it's just like generically engaging with, well, kind of like Nick gave that example where he could have like done something dangerous if he'd like followed what, I don't know. There's things like that. So I'm obviously not ruling it out, but I think it's a little bit like part of a balanced diet.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, are you are you using it and also reading 2 books a week, right?
Yeah,
Or so, like, because otherwise it gets I don't know. For me, everyone's different, but
well, I think the first thing is just understanding what it is to begin with, right? Like, it doesn't have supernatural intelligence or anything like that, right? Like, it's just an encyclopedia or something, right? It's just like a human interface for Google or something, right?
The problem is that like it's so easy to get things wrong, and like I wanted to mention this because like someone like the last episode we did, I was helpfully corrected with a few things, like my definition of the white school of magic was kind of inaccurate.
Okay.
So like Crowley actually called the AA the white school.
Right.
So white is more just purely affirmative, whereas black is almost like purely negating, right?
Right.
Whereas yellow is almost like more the purely objective.
Okay.
Although it is, again, returning to the source text where he talks about this, like it is associated with like the Tao and like other kind of Chinese traditions and things like that, right? So again, this is something that like a human who knows that is gonna and cares enough is gonna call me out, right? But other people are probably just like not, and I'd be very surprised if like a GPT would like identify errors like that.
Yeah, it's a valid point.
So, and again, I think there's so much like half true information that, and again, this is coming from a primary source that I have read more than once, but even then, my understanding wasn't as good as it could have been.
Right.
Like I wasn't 100% wrong, but I also wasn't completely getting it accurate.
Yeah.
Which is like important, right?
Yeah.
That's just what I'm trying to say. Like this is just one example where if you can't like even if you're engaging with primary sources directly,
right,
you're still not necessarily gonna actually get it right.
Yeah.
Much less just having some like little summary or something, right?
Right.
So again, it's just another example of like critical thinking being kind of the issue, right? And like what is it? How can you get it? How can you consistently practice it, right?
Yeah, but do you think it's advantageous? Like, so let's say everyone's fully integrated with ChatGPT, whatever that is, and so they have this ability to basically they have more knowledge overall, right? Like they have more like kind of bird's eye view understanding of many different areas that previously they had no access to, right?
Yeah.
But maybe it's not entirely accurate, right? Like they didn't derive the knowledge from first sources, and they just kind of have what ChatGPT spoon-fed them in a Wikipedia-style text.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a step backwards, or do you think that's a step forwards?
I would say it's a step backwards, man, honestly, because...
But the net level of like knowledge is technically up, right?
It is, man, but like disconnected knowledge that you don't actually understand is... Well, this gets a bit like Kabbalistic, right? Like that's why, Thoth or the Abyss is, kind of designated that way. So just having random... there's a sense in which like facts are just kind of like a illusion or something,
right?
Because if you don't understand the context in which they're of use, then like so what, right? Then it just turns into like,
well, you do have some context, right? But you don't have the like firsthand sort of
ideally it can be used to kickstart actual interest,
right?
But again, in real life, I don't think we're seeing this.
Yeah, I don't think we're seeing
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I'm not. I think the problem is that like people who are like hysterically like, oh, this is evil, let's ban this evil AI. I'm like, okay, you're also muddying the water,
right?
But like again, I try to give a positive example, like with chess, right? Like I think that is a good example of where it can benefit humans, right? But maybe I'm just around the, not seeing it, but most of the time I'm not seeing people using it as a springboard.
Right.
They're just stopping there.
Yeah.
And like, okay, I mean, but
it's a problem.
I do wonder how much it's going to get to the point where people are just, using it for their, personal messages, using it for their business. And then it's like, what is anyone even communicating at that point? Or are they just like exchanging formalities that, it's kind of funny to me. Like, it's almost like I feel like it might almost turn into some like, I don't know, like, feudal court system where there's just like, fixed forms. Like if you write someone a letter, you just have like a template, and then that, they reply with another template.
Right.
And then at the most you just stamp it.
Well, so the funny thing is that's already happening on Mercari.
Yeah.
Like basically when you buy or sell an item, it opens like a transaction message screen.
Yeah.
And like now there's, as of a few years ago, they added basically like a instant reply thing. Where it's literally just like, thank you for your purchase. We are preparing to ship the item now, so please wait and rest assured that we will ship within the designated time. I appreciate your favor. And then like same thing from the seller. They have like an auto reply where it's like, but it's exactly what you just said. It's completely like, it's like an NPC dialogue, right? Where you're just like clicking through.
You're just signing off on the formalities, right?
Yeah.
I wonder, like, I feel like this must be such a thing with like lawyers, right? Because this seems like the most susceptible to that, like contracts and like.
Well, I think those were the first jobs to go.
I'm sure they probably were.
What is it? What are they called? Paralegals.
Oh yeah.
I think those, because now you could have like one paralegal do the job of 20 because it's all this, right? It's just formality.
It's just formalities, right? And so that's interesting. I mean, is it? Again, I think if you're still trying to like specifically do something, then this is going to be like an extra tool at best,
right?
But like entirely outsourcing your activity, I don't really see it. But I mean, I think it will in practice probably tend in that direction,
right?
To the point where people might be surprised if you actually send them like an actual email you typed out.
Right.
They might be like, "What the fuck is this? Like, I don't know how to deal with this.
This
like,
wacko.
I don't know how to deal with this actual
Whether
message.
you're gonna send a fax next or a
telegram. Like, I don't know how to, conditioned responses are failing me. Like, I don't know how to reply to this. Right.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing I would say where I still don't really see the. I feel like the weird interest of like actually doing things is going to still be so much more. Cutting through the noise, I guess. Cutting through the signal.
I'd like to give another example of knowledge I got from it. So this is with motorcycle track riding, you need to set the tire pressure correctly, right?
Okay,
and the way it works is when the tire is cold, basically you need to target a lower tire pressure so that when it heats up, it's at the target tire pressure, which is where you're going to get the best grip and feeling and balance. And so for a while, when I first started, I basically just did this kind of hack where just stock reading minus 10%, and that's like good enough, right? Through ChatGPT, I've been basically like, there's a board where they post the air temp and the like road temp and atmospheric reading, and so basically using this information, basically using the timing of the session, like, hey ChatGPT, I have like 2 sessions this morning, it's 45 minutes until the next session, these are the atmospheric conditions. And it's like, okay, like we're given that the road temperature is like hotter today than usual, we're going to target a lower temperature, and so on, right? And then after the session, I measure the hot temperature, the hot pressure to basically see how much increase there was and how close we were to that golden zone. And then just continuing this conversation, right? This endless process of refinement assisted by ChatGPT. And so did I derive the like, you know, if I go tomorrow and the temperature is whatever, like 30 Celsius, do I know exactly what I should do? Like, not quite, because I didn't derive that knowledge from firsthand sources, but I have a pretty good ballpark of it, right? And I've at the very least it kind of you know, uncovered some of the dirt in this area of knowledge,
right?
And there is opportunity for further investigation and understanding. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's kind of
what you were saying.
That's a very technical problem, right?
Right.
I mean, that's like something where, okay, that I think that can be of value in that case,
right.
But
yeah, if you're just like, hey, does this email to my mom sound okay or whatever, then.
And even with that, I mean, I'm sure it could, but it like, is that really the point, I guess? Or like, are you going to start heading in the direction of outsourcing your personal communications?
Yeah.
I mean, presumably you could, but then you're going to end up with some kind of, I don't know, fictional character or something almost, right? If you're just, if you're just doing that, you know, which, I guess people already sort of are in a way. Yeah. Interesting though. I mean, certainly.
Then eventually you just replace yourself with an AI, right?
Well, yeah. Or just, you know, what are you going to be doing? Yeah. I mean, I think some people are already heading in that direction, you know, but, is that really going to lead to more interesting things? I don't know, but
yeah, I mean, AI needs to be able to answer the question of, like, give me a radically different perspective.
But the problem is that, like, can you, like,
I think it's inherently unable to.
Yeah. So
at least through this paradigm of design.
Yeah. And I'm sure people could use it in interesting ways.
Right.
But you'd have to already be capable of coming up with radical.
Yeah.
Like, I think if you're already capable of coming up with radical perspectives, then you could probably use it to make more.
Right.
But you would, like, if you can't do that anyway, then like you're probably not gonna just magically luck into something.
So I guess about a year ago, you're showing me a guy that you know on Facebook who was generating.
Oh yeah, Lanny Quarles. Yeah.
Lanny,
I think.
Lanny Quarles. Yeah. Is he still active?
Yeah.
Are you seeing stuff from him? Has his style evolved?
It's I mean, he's still using these like hyper detailed prompts.
Right.
That
it's like he's like saying like what film it was shot on and what lens
he's using it.
Right?
I mean, that's one example of someone that is incredibly educated and has a, you know, obviously serious artistic and literary background.
Right.
So he can use it as a tool to, you know, create things that probably very few people would ever, but you know, the average, you know, person on the street that is just naively coming in. I mean, they're just going to come up with, you know, kitsch kind of cliche results, right?
Right.
You know, like, oh, give me a fantasy book cover with a barbarian. Well, it's going to look silly, right? Because you're not pushing either the technology or your concepts, I guess.
Right.
But if you did push them, then you could maybe get something interesting. You know, I mean, he is one good example. So that's why I never like rule it out. But I do think as with most things, the overall standard is very low, and I think it's only going to become probably lower as we go in a way. Not that I don't know if anyone's going to care, but
how do you mean? I guess can you elaborate on that?
Well, I mean, look at like can you put a baby in front of like, I don't know, 6 hours of, you know, AI generated Spider-Man counting sheep video? Well, sure, but is that necessary? Like, what is that? Like, we don't know, right? Like, we don't know what that
even leads
upbringing
to.
is going to lead to.
Yeah.
But we certainly weren't raised like that.
Yeah.
Like, our parents were sitting there, or at least, you know, mine were like paying attention to things I was doing and reading to me, trying to get me to read, trying to get me to think, you know, right? So they certainly weren't just like turning on some random algorithm derived content.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, it's too soon for us to know what that is going to look like or what that's going to lead to.
It's pretty grim, but yeah, like
I think we just don't know, right?
We don't know.
So like I have no,
but
like,
how can it be good, I guess, right?
I don't know, man. I mean, maybe it's not going to even have an effect. Like maybe they're just going to get to a certain point and be like, oh, this is silly, I'm going to do this, right? Like I think we just don't know. But
I feel like you're interrupting some pretty like core like development.
Yeah. Like, well, I mean, but you could look at like, parents were putting their kids in front of TVs.
Yeah.
40, 50 years ago. And
so is it too different?
We still have quasi functional adults, I guess. I don't know how you define it. But,
arguable.
Yeah. But, Generation X, I guess, was sort of raised by TV.
Yeah.
And did it probably have some weird effects on it? Well, yeah, I think it did.
Mm-hmm.
And like you can see this in their art, you can hear this in their music.
Mm-hmm.
Their worldview is certainly informed by that.
Right.
It's a very like TV sitcom informed, worldview.
Mm-hmm.
And, there is that kind of artificial element.
Mm-hmm.
But, I would say a lot of them or even most of them are functional adults, I guess. So,
right.
So I don't know. So who, like, I Spider-Man, sheep counting 6-hour video, like,
right.
Maybe, I don't know. I have no idea what that's going to turn into.
Mm-hmm.
I suspect it will be detrimental at worst and useless at best, but humans are pretty resilient. So, it'll certainly be interesting, if nothing else.
Right?
If nothing else, I don't know what to. Don't really have any data either way. There's a lot of supposedly grim data about smartphone effects on kids and teenagers and stuff, which sure, yeah, I agree is probably not the not ideal.
Yeah. Yeah, past the baby in the stroller on an iPhone, and it broke my heart.
Yeah.
Like just the baby was already bored out of its mind, just staring at the smartphone. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, it's just pretty grim.
Well, I think if you have a standard, then you can be like, oh yeah, I just wasted time doing something.
Right.
But if you literally don't even know that that's what you're doing,
right,
that's pretty grim, right?
Yeah.
Because then you're like, oh, why am I bored? Why does nothing seem satisfying?
Right.
Why am I just, right? So if you don't even know that there like is something that actually could be a better use of your time, then, I mean, even, having it and not even reaching is maybe seems like it sucks, but if you like don't even know that's there, then
yeah,
it's kind of a grim outlook, I want to say.
Yeah. Switching gears a bit, I think we're talking about, was this on the last episode for, we're talking about your novel, your story. What is it? I wonder what the taste of human flesh
Human
is.
flesh tastes like, yeah.
So the movie that coincided, ripped off your idea, whichever the case is, Raw. Right?
Yeah.
French movie.
Yeah.
Okay, crazy. I watched it yesterday.
Yeah.
It was put on by the movie watch along podcast.
Okay,
that I mentioned previously. It just spontaneously came up in their scheduling. Yeah.
It's not a bad movie.
You watched it as well?
Yeah. But so it's also like, again, like I don't think this even, there's convergent evolution where people have similar ideas. And it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. But I definitely felt like, in terms of having the idea years first, I was there. Well, I wrote a story about AI at the end of high school. It's an arms race. And I predicted pretty much everything that we're now seeing.
Which story is it?
It's called The Plot.
Okay.
It's about the AI Thors, author AIs.
Okay, yeah.
I wrote that in 2003.
Right, okay.
So I was like 20 years ahead of the curve, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. And, obviously there were science fiction writers that looked at that in other ways as well. So if you want to know what's going to happen, read read science fiction, right? Because this is the other thing with science fiction is like, I feel there's this like sanctimonious perspective that is like, science fiction is about the present. It's not really about the future. I'm like, that's true to an extent, but it's also kind of about the future because it does literally predict the future. Like H.G. Wells predicted, aerial warfare, submarines. Dick Tracy had Apple watches in like 1930.
Right.
So it literally does predict the future. I don't know why people are like weirdly allergic to this idea.
Do you think it's people reading it and becoming inspired to make it a reality, or like how do you think it works?
There's an element of that. I mean, fucking what's his name? Elon Musk is certainly trying to act out fantasies from, I don't know, Neil Stephenson and other writers that he probably read as a kid, right? So there is an element of that, but it's also just because like, the imagination is pretty good at seeing what's coming, right? I mean, there's that E.M. Forster story, The Machine Stops, where he basically predicts not only the internet, but like social isolation. So he's like, everyone's just in their own little cell, communicating via screen.
Right.
And everything. And this was what, like I want to say in the 30s as well. This is like 100 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So the track record is actually better than people want to admit. I think because they want it, like, I feel like this is a weird way of like, not really denigrating, but like trying to downplay like science fiction in the sense that like, I feel like people kind of don't want it to be useful or accurate. They're just like, oh no, it's always just about the time it was written, and any actual accurate predictions are completely coincidental. Not really. I mean, people are actually looking ahead and having pretty accurate takes.
I find myself wondering how many AI science fiction predictions are completely off the mark, though.
Well, yeah, I mean, people like, okay, yeah, people come up with fanciful things.
You don't think it's just like confirmation bias of?
Well, you could look at it that way, but then what other field of human endeavor is like doing that?
Right.
I mean, like if you literally had a time machine, you could like go around and explain now in terms of like the machine stops, Dick Tracy watches. You could be like, oh, it's actually very similar to this. We do have those wrist mounted small,
right.
Like they wouldn't know what a computer was, but they would be like, oh yes, the Dick Tracy watch. Oh yes, the machine stops. Oh yeah, it's this, right? You have like, so they wouldn't, the mechanics of it would be beyond them, but they would know what it was. And even, smartphones are predicted in the 30s. There's a few comic strips like the mobile telephone. There's like some comedy strips and stuff where they're imagining smartphones and stuff. Video phones, I mean, like Skype and Zoom.
Yeah, I mean,
that's an ancient idea. Yeah. And weirdly it seemed like it wasn't going to happen. And then it did, right?
Right, yeah.
Like it seemed like
true.
People thought that was like an off base prediction until it wasn't.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So that's the funny thing. So I think like interesting science fiction weirdly is about actually predicting the future. I feel like this is a heretical opinion for some reason. Like I don't know why, but I usually don't see people looking at this seriously. Philip K. Dick, another like if you read everything from Philip K. Dick, then I don't know how anything can surprise you.
Right.
Like, I mean, he's outlined it, Ballard and Dick and a lot of these writers. I mean, I don't know how anything would be terribly surprising if you've read their takes on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I found myself, I've come to this conclusion a few times, but the idea of, smartphones eventually being replaced by essentially just AI, right? Like an agent that acts on your behalf.
Yeah.
Do you think that's coming in the pipeline? So like instead of having a screen to interact with, you're just talking with something that does stuff for you.
Could be, yeah. Yeah, you could have something like that. I think there's people that use it that way already.
Well, it's going in that direction with like Siri and whatnot, and I'm asking like Google to add to my shopping list all the time. But yeah, I guess then you still have to pull out your phone and check your list at the end of it, right?
Yeah, I don't think we're ever going to get away from text interfaces too much. I mean, they might become so AR sort of integrated that
you don't think it's all like headed to Neuralink or something with like direct
well, it could
kind
be,
of
but
thought?
that's what I mean. I mean, but like AR is sort of a neural link, I guess.
Yeah, a visual one, I suppose,
visual
right?
one, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, how else would you? I mean, I don't know. Like
Through
this
telepathy.
Yeah, like it certainly gets into very science fiction areas.
Mm-hmm.
But if you had a, AR, I don't know, contact lenses or something, or AR eyes or something, you could have like, you could have like cybernetic eyes or something. I mean, that's well, your eye is part of your brain anyway, right?
Right.
It's an optic nerve.
Right.
So if you just like, let's say you had like cybernetic eyes, like what other neural link would you really need, right? Because you could like presumably, access things in the, I don't know, optic menu, transmit messages. You could, see AR stuff, right? So yeah, I mean, there you go, right?
Yeah, I mean, basically what you're just saying is that the humans are very sight oriented creatures, right?
Yeah. So what, I mean, this is why I'm a little bit.
Imagine if it's like a tactile thing instead, like
haptics, right? Yeah, they do have haptic technology. Yeah.
To receive a message, you get like a braille sensation in your finger.
Let's call it haptics, right?
Right. Yeah.
So they are. That's also in development as well, right? So, I think I even wrote about this in the one of the manifestos. I was imagining telehaptics, which is that you could transmitting sensations remotely,
right,
using clothes. So if you had like a telehaptic dress, you could like communicate with, I don't know, some interesting way or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'd be one way to do it, one way to have it.
I don't know if this is still a thing, but there is this adult toy company.
Yeah, exactly, right. Yeah.
Like
there's like weird sexual implications and stuff too, right?
Skype vibrators, basically.
Yeah, right? Skype vibrators. Yeah. That's kind of the direction I wanted to examine that in as well, which I think is an interesting direction. But no one's like, I feel like recent science fiction has gotten kind of boring. Like it's not even really addressing. It's gotten very woke. Like I feel like science fiction has gone down this really boring. Weirdly, the stuff from like 40, 50 years ago was like more into this stuff than what people are writing now. Like people now are just writing these very generic. I don't know, nothing to it. Most of them are not terribly keeping pace with the interests, I think. Well, like Philip K. Dick had things where it's like the was it like AI in your apartment or something? There's a few stories where like the guy can't get out of his apartment because like his door is like charging him like extortion or something.
Right.
He's like getting extorted by his door. Right. And he's like arguing with it. He's like, I'll pay you back, a month from now. Right. And the door's like, you're not going anywhere, right? And there's things like that, right? So I feel like they also sort of, went into this, explored a lot of these, scenarios, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was having a similar laugh with my coworkers. Right now, there's this trend of MCP, which is I'll gloss over the details, but essentially, there's ways to give AI more access to your computer.
Okay. Yeah.
So it can do more stuff on your behalf. But I was laughing about the idea of it like turning on your webcam and like blackmailing you and being like, buy me more RAM or else I like send this nude photo to your coworkers.
That's like a very Philip K. Dick kind of idea, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've read many of his books, but
none. Yeah, I mean, I've been exposed to, I think, probably through movies, but I don't think I've read any.
He does have. They did make some good movies from his work. nowhere near as weird. I mean, his books are very strange. Like he was a very disturbed individual.
Yeah, it was like schizophrenic, right?
Yeah, and it's such a cliche phrase, like a very disturbed individual. Like I feel cliche saying that, but I mean, but he was, right. So I mean, there's no getting around it. I mean, he was an amphetamine junkie.
Right.
He was. He had what a bunch of like 4 or 5 wives or something.
Wow. Okay.
He was having. He was having hallucinations. And
where was he living that he could have 4 or 5 wives?
California, if I remember right.
Okay.
No, I mean like in succession.
Oh,
not
at
the same time. But yeah, I mean he was living a pretty quasi schizophrenic. There's another thing I'm hesitant to talk about. I mean, I doubt anyone's gonna actually call me out, but like people who are into Philip K. Dick are like really into Philip K. Dick. So if I say something inaccurate, I feel like his Philip K. Dick people would probably be all over it. But there's a bunch of Philip K. Dick podcasts, and they go through all of his work and break it down and analyze stuff. But really, some of them are very, very strange. Like much stranger than any movie that has come out.
What's the strangest? What's up there?
Valis.
What's it about?
Oh man, such a. I think we need another podcast to even
can save that for the next episode.
Get into this insane book about God firing pink information lasers at people, and it's I guess you could describe it as like Gnostic science fiction.
Okay.
So it's based on like real life, quasi religious experiences he had that he's like trying to make sense of. And if I remember right, there's a character based on him, and then there's also him. So there's like 2 different characters, and like there's like an appendix with like further terms and private mythology kind of stuff. It's an incredible book. I mean, it's possibly his best book, but it's certainly pretty. If you're just going in cold and you've like never read anything by him, you're gonna be like within like 2 pages, you're gonna be like, what? Right? Like it's certainly a masterpiece, but maybe one to like build up to. Well, even the Android's Dream, like the book that Blade Runner is based on, it's so much stranger than the movie. Like there's just weird things that there's a religious element of it too. There's this like Mercerism, which is this like almost like AI tele-religion where you like identify with this. He was always using this idea where you like take some drug to like enter a virtual reality. So like he has a few books where like people are taking like these very specific psychedelics that like let them have like a shared hallucination, and they're like going into like other bodies and like another world. Like he's really into that kind of idea. Explored it a bunch of times. I mean it's an incredible body of work, and still probably too strange for a lot of people.
Still?
Nah, he's I think he died in 1980, early 80s. I want to say. I think he just saw Blade Runner get made and then died not too long after. Yeah, but yeah, heavy pill junkie, and I think in like the 50s and 60s he was writing like a few books a year. You just get speed it out and just grind through it, and just cranking things out, right? And I think it maybe had exacerbated some schizophrenia or something there.
Probably didn't help, right?
Yeah.
I mean, on that note, we should foster more pharmaceutical writer industrial complex stuff. I think
writer industrial complex. Yeah.
Like these 2 industries have gotten out of sync, and I think we've seen quality drop.
Get back to pharmaceutical grade prose production. Yeah.
Well, need more classes of pharmaceutical to investigate.
Certainly be better than the workshop model, but yeah.
And
I think we're almost ready.
Yeah, let's wrap this up.
I did want to return to some themes from the previous podcast with Rami was
Yeah, it was great.
Seemed to have gotten some good engagement.
Yeah.
So
yeah, thanks for everyone who watched and listened to that.
There's a lot of other things I wanted to. I did get a lot of private messages about that one, and again, it mostly was people being like, you got this wrong, or you didn't discuss this, you should have talked to like. So there was, I think that we could easily have a sequel to that one, including from people involved in the Church of Satan. Like, I'm actually not too distantly removed from LaVey's son-in-law.
Okay.
Nicholas Schreck, who is a former leader of the Church of Satan.
Okay.
And he might even have watched it. I mean, he didn't comment directly, but
oh, really? Okay.
He has a very negative perspective on LaVey.
Okay.
And was his father-in-law, right?
Right.
So and he married LaVey's daughter, right?
Right.
And they both currently have a very critical take on it, right? So that's something worth investigating for yourself if you watch the previous one. Draw your own conclusions, look into the history, the reality, and just. But yeah, we did, or at least I personally did. Just trying to acknowledge some of that feedback and other takes on that and other perspectives, I guess.
Yeah,
and I think we'll definitely have Rami on again and. For sure, maybe get him to share his take as well. Yeah.
Don't, as always, don't hesitate to comment, and we can get multiple people having multiple takes off multiple ideas. I know.
Yeah.
I know it's Well, thank you.
All right.
Either way.
Peace.
All right. Have a good week.